Welcome to Your Health, a podcast from the Hoosier Ag Today presents your Purdue Extension Podcast Network, brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau, a united voice for agriculture. On today's podcast, we're talking about food safety as we come up on festival season, so stay tuned.
At Indiana Farm Bureau, we serve tree farmers, goat farmers, and in fact, all farmers. With over 250,000 members, Indiana Farm Bureau represents a broad range of farmers and puts power in your collective voice. You also get advice from our subject matter experts, more affordable health plan options, and support for youth programs statewide. So whether you grow soybeans or strawberries, membership means you'll be heard. Become a member today at infb.org.
Food safety is something many of us take for granted until something goes wrong. From properly washing your hands before preparing a meal to making sure foods reach safe internal temperatures, the small steps we take in the kitchen can make a big difference. So today we'll discuss why food safety matters, common mistakes people make, and how Purdue Extension's educational programs can help consumers, food service workers, and even farmers market vendors keep food safe from farm to table. Joining us today is our guest expert from Purdue Extension, Karen Richey, Health and Human Science Educator. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege.
Well, let's get right into food safety basics. Why is food safety something that should never be taken for granted?
Well, I think we somewhat underestimate the fact that we have a safe food supply compared to other countries. However, once it gets in our hands, we still have to, and when I mean hands, we really have to take precautions, just like retail management has to. So that's why food safety is important, no matter if it's a consumer or retail.
Well, let's talk about the consumer. What are some of the more common food safety mistakes that we can make at home?
Washing your hands. We find that many people do not wash their hands, whether it be a small child or an adult. It does not matter. We do not wash our hands thoroughly. We do not wash our hands often. I can give you an example. When we teach classes, that people will say, well, I didn't wash my hands. Well, that's the first thing you do when you enter a kitchen, when you come in contact with food. When you leave the restroom, you need to wash your hands before you've left the restroom.
Sounds like that's the number one rule right there. Wash those hands.
I just did a program with the Plain community in a 3-county area, and we had a activity for children to wash, or basically wash their hands. And it was, parents were looking right over their shoulders saying, I told you needed to wash your hands more, because we use glow germ, and so they could see their hands actually, how dirty they would be. So it was interesting.
But it sounds like from what you're saying, it doesn't matter what age you are. Sometimes we just forget to wash our hands or we don't wash our hands. So for everyone listening, all age groups, what is the correct way to wash your hands before handling food?
Well, first of all, you would want to have warm running water, okay? And you would want to have soap. And what we tell people to have a thorough process of at least 20 seconds. That means the water and lathering is at least 15 seconds. So if you sing happy birthday twice or the ABCs twice, basically that's the length of time you should be washing your hands, and use a single-use towel. Is usually in food preparation, it would be a paper towel is what you would use. So yeah,
that's good to know. So not the cloth ones.
Not the cloth ones, no.
Okay.
Especially if you're in the kitchen, because again, it's different if you're in a restroom. Basically, if you're in retail management, then that's a little bit different. Be paper towel as well. So,
how do you feel about hand dryers?
I don't. I don't feel about hand dryers. I think it depends on the style of hand dryer. I will be very honest. There's some that would be permissible and others that are not such good ones. So
Gotcha.
go back to that one use, single use paper towel is probably the best.
One and done.
And
Throw it
wash,
away.
yeah, once and done, throw it away.
Never look
But hand
back.
is basically the first step when you go into thinking about doing home food preparation.
Good to know. So let's talk about other common mistakes. Let's talk about knowing when the food is done. A lot of people they rely on appearance, which can probably be risky, I imagine. So what's so important about using a food thermometer?
A food thermometer should be your best friend when you're in the kitchen, and especially if you're grilling out. This time of the year, people take grilling as so to speak, to do things outside. And when you are preparing food on the grill or even inside, if you're cooking it, especially your meats. Your meats are really critical. You can take a ground beef patty and it looks like it's brown on the outside, but until you know the internal temperature, you will not know if it's cooked thoroughly. And again, the temperature of that ground beef patty needs to be 155 degrees, and that thermometer should hold for about 17 seconds. And I wonder how many people do that. Do you do that?
I do. Yeah, I do. I actually have a very
Okay.
good food thermometer, and I definitely do that. But I didn't used to, but I watched a documentary on it, and I was like, wow, I'm surprised I haven't gotten sick.
Well, and that's the thing. There's E. coli out there. There's salmonella. I mean, these are bacteria. And so it goes back to, first of all, when you made that ground beef patty, you used clean hands. That's why you needed to wash them. And then you need to take them out I'm going to use it as cooking on a grill as an example, okay? So you would take that ground beef patty that's been formed and put it on a clean plate, take it to the grill, cook it, take the temperature with a thermometer, make sure it reads 155 degrees, then have another clean plate to bring it back. Because if you don't use a clean plate, you're basically contaminating. Cross-contamination is what we would call it, from the juices or the could be the blood, which was on the plate when you took it to the grill. So again, it's cross-contamination, it's bacteria, it's thermometers, all of that, and sanitation is huge when it comes to food safety.
What are some recommended, safe internal temperatures for foods like poultry or ground beef or steak or pork?
Okay, so poultry has its own separate category. It basically has to be 165 for instantaneously or less than 1 second. Any kind of poultry, and that includes if you had something that was even a stuffed meat that had seafood in it. So if it was that has stuffing in it, that's going to have to be to 165. But if I was cooking just a plain pork chop, then it would be basically 145. And so you've got poultry at 165, you've got ground meats, and that could be a ground seafood, it could be a ground beef, and that would be 155. Pork ground, anything ground, 155. And then your seafood, your steaks, your commercially raised game, anything like that would be 155 for proteins. And as well as maybe your roast, things like that. If you had prime rib, they would be 155 or 145. And then if you are doing any types of preparation with food that comes from plants, and you're cooking that should be 135. So you have a range, and because of that range, you need a thermometer.
Yeah, you're talking like veggie burgers and that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The plant, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's talk about those people that when you say, how do you like your steak? And they say, you know what? As long as it stops mooing, I'll eat it.
So they can say that because there's a difference, because if you think of how ground meat, ground beef, I'll use an example, when it goes through a grinding process, all of that bacteria that could be on the outside is now ground through that entire meat. And basically that bacteria is then been dispersed. So that's why ground beef or any type of ground meat 55 for 17 seconds. My steak, the bacteria is only going to be on the outside, not internally. So that's why you can have one, as long as the outside temperature reaches 145 for 15 seconds, I would be safe.
Okay.
I would be safe. The food would be safe.
Sure. Yeah. So let's switch gears here a little bit, Karen. And talk about some of the food safety educational programs that Purdue Extension offers.
Well, Purdue offers what we refer to as Serve Safe certification, and that is basically sufficient knowledge about food and beverage safety and handling. And when you take that class, you have to become certified and pass an exam. And we have two different types. One is the Serve Safe Food Protection Manager or managerial class. The other is the Serve Safe Food Handler class. And both offer a certification. It's just that the food manager class basically is much more intense. It's for, let's say, a retail food manager established. They would have to have the managerial. A food handler would be for anything that maybe would work underneath that manager. So a waitress could be a home-based vendor. So the Serve Safe Food Handler is really anyone that needs basic food safety handling training.
So who would you think would be a good candidate for a program like that?
Well, we train a lot of food service managers. We also train school teachers that want to teach in their hospitality classes in high schools. But a lot of it would be we're going into festival time. And so you see a lot of food vendors at the county fair. They all have to have the Serve Safe Managers class. Now, if they have a helper that's working with them, then it would be a food handler. So anyone that really wants to just know the basic knowledge, maybe it's a church organization that wants to have a bazaar in the fall. Those individuals would take the food handler. They would not need to have the food manager. And if you're thinking about markets this time of year, several of those individuals would need to have the food handler education or certification. So we teach both of those, the Serve Safe Food Manager as well as the food handler.
It's funny that I'm talking to you about this because just this week I was having a discussion with the board at my church about some upcoming things that we've got coming up that involve food. And I said, I think maybe somebody should take a class on this or something. So this is perfect timing.
Well, and I just had a lady yesterday that called in and wanted to know all the regulations a year ago about selling jams and jellies at their church bazaar. And she said, you were so much help. And I said, well, we have the resources. We have the education. It is really up to the Indiana Department of Health to do the inspections and things like that. But we have the educational component. Purdue University offers that.
Good to know, Karen. I tell you what, we're going to take a short break. But when we return, we're going to talk about farmers markets, certifications, and training opportunities when we return with Karen Richey on Your Health.
Starting conversations about mental health with family and with farmers is very difficult because it's not a subject that's always been a part of normal conversation. Really just opening a conversation or checking in with someone saying, hey, how's it going? How are you doing really? What are you feeling? Are you feeling overwhelmed? What are some ways that I can help take some of the stress off of you? But there are always ways that you can help. Just providing a little bit of extra support, because many times we see families that tend to struggle with keeping up with everything that's happening. Reach out and make sure that everything that family feels supported. That's a major way that people can help a farm family during busy seasons.
Farmer suicide rates are significantly higher than the general population. That's why Purdue Extension offers the Purdue Farms Trust Team to offer help when it's needed most. And we're back with Karen Richey on Your Health. Karen, let's talk about food safety practices and how they apply to vendors selling products at farmers markets. You mentioned it a little bit before the break. Let's get deeper into the weeds on it.
Well, I can tell you that as a Purdue Extension educator, we offer we do not do the inspections. We do not state or write the state laws. That's all under the Indiana Department of Health. Now, what we can do, and what I have done in the past, is I'll have a lot of market masters or farmer market managers come to me and say, what's the latest? What do we need to know? So we can share with them and give them direction. But we can also answer questions in regards to, again, are these when I say TCS foods, it's time, temperature. And so those factors are foods that you can offer, jams and jellies, baked goods, things like that. But when it comes into more specific products, again, we want to make sure that the Indiana Department of Health is making those rules, and we follow those rules through our educational component. So we talked about time and temperature of meats. Again, that's not something that you can relate to in regards to a farmer's market, but it is in fact a safety factor. So individuals need to know what they can do. Hand washing, sanitation, was it prepared properly? Those kinds of things for farmers markets.
I went to garage sailing last weekend and came upon a couple of little kids that had a little card table out in front of the yard sale, and they were selling cookies and lemonade, and I bought some cookies and lemonade. This might be a silly question, but would a program like the one that you're offering be beneficial for some, like a kid that is entrepreneurial and wants to put something out in front of their house every day or during the summer trying to make a couple extra dollars?
I would say the 4-H Foods program would probably be the best program for them to take, and that would definitely be a program that they should be involved in, because entrepreneurs is there, foods is there. I mean, it's the whole gamut. We could do that through 4-H. But the other part of it is you're never too young to start learning what's the rules and policies and procedures. So, just asking a question, how were those cookies made, or how were they displayed? Were they in individual bags? Did you know if they had nuts in them, for if you were allergic to nuts? So things like that in a conversation may get a child thinking, am I doing this right? And so they do need some training. And yes, we do have youth programs, even not beyond the 4-H program that we offer.
I love it. I think that is fantastic. Cover the entire gambit of age groups here. So let's talk more about. So let's talk more about the upcoming season here, farmers markets and festivals. What are some food safety concerns that would be unique to like a festival type of direct-to-consumer food sale situation?
So we have basically at our county fair, and our county fair is rather small, but we have like an organization, nonprofit organizations that have some food booths, and we have some for-profit organizations. They still have to go underneath the same rules and regulations of what the state Department of Health requires. So at that event, you want to make sure that your food is safe. However, if they do not have a large enough sale, in other words, over like $1.5 million worth of sale, they may fall exempt to some of those rules, okay? But if they are making a profit, and it's like a vendor goes from one fair to another, and they are definitely making a profit, they definitely fall underneath that jurisdiction of the Indiana Department of Health. So again, that's why they need the safe food knowledge that we offer, because again, every county may actually inspect them a little bit different or require a little bit more. So it's important to know where you're going in as a vendor, in what county, and what their requirements are. And hopefully the consumer then realizes that that is a safe thing. I know of a vendor that is here local and has taken my classes, and he proudly displays his Serve Safe certificate. And you know what? That's okay, because that way it gives assurance that he's doing things correctly.
I love it. So where can people learn more about the Serve Safe certification, the training opportunities? Where can they find this information?
It's real easy. Is basically just Google the Purdue Food Science Department, and there is a link, and I think I shared that link with you so that we've got that. And so with that, you can go on there and you can find out when classes are throughout the state of Indiana. You can find out more about, do you need to take Serve Safe Food Manager or the. So with that, I think just that's our website for food safety, and it's underneath the Purdue Food Science Department.
And I'm sure there are probably other food safety resources that are available there as well.
Oh, absolutely. Let's say if I was a home-based vendor and I wanted to have my jams and jellies tested for perhaps maybe it's water activity or pH level. And so I could send 3 different examples of my jam and jelly recipe to Purdue University to do all the testing to make sure that the water activity as well as the acidity level is proper. Okay, so maybe you come up with a let's say I want to make my grandmother's salsa recipe. Well, you can't just make any salsa recipe. There are USDA guidelines because of the acidity factor. So I would send all 3 different batches to samples of that salsa to Purdue University. They would test it and then give me the results. So
fascinating.
See, it's not only the university extension that's offering all this information.
That's good to know. But it's all right there. You can find it right there on that website you mentioned.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you just Google the Purdue Food Science Department and go to Outreach, and then it's a tab. And if you just go to Outreach, it's basically lists all the options that you can find.
Karen, as we wrap up our time. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We also offer information about home food preservation. So if you're interested in home food preservation, there's opportunities to know about that as well.
Awesome. Karen, as we wrap up our time together today, if listeners were to remember just one thing about food safety that we have talked about today, what would you want that to be?
Don't underestimate it. Our food supply is safe, but yet you need to take precautions in your own hands and make sure that you wash your hands and take your times and temperatures with your food.
Karen Richey, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure.
Food safety starts with simple habits: washing your hands, preventing cross-contamination, and using a food thermometer to ensure foods reach safe internal temperatures. These small actions can help protect your family, customers, and community from foodborne illnesses. A special thanks to our guest today, Karen Richey, for sharing her expertise and helping us better understand the importance of food safety and the educational resources available through Purdue Extension. To learn more about ServSafe Food Manager and ServSafe Food Handler training, along with additional food safety resources, you can contact your local Purdue Extension office or visit Purdue Extension's food safety programs online. Thank you for tuning in to Your Health, a podcast from the Hoosier Ag Today presents your Purdue Extension podcast network. It's brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau, a unified voice for agriculture. I'm your host, Greg Allen, reminding you to like and share this out as we continue bringing you trusted information to help you live well, stay healthy, and make informed decisions for yourself and your family. We'll see you next time.